Sort of. So I've been watching some videos on something that you might find interesting is, how can I frame this? Interesting. I think a lot of people have thought about this over time or as they grow older, but the terms masculine and feminine, and it's become less important in the politics, but to some degree, obviously in the politics too, but it's become, in my view, certainly on the YouTube, there's, a bottomless well of videos on both topics. And, there's so many guys that go on there and say, this is how you become more masculine, or these are signs of masculinity, and then the women do the same thing for the femininity, and so I was wondering, it's like, it's one of these things where these terms, like you say, these terms like system or ideology or capitalism, and they can mean a trillion different things, masculinity or femininity. And so the question I had for you was, because I think you have good approaches to these things, is we know that there are biological differences between the male gender and the female gender. We know that's real. And it's physical, and it's driven by the DNA. The DNA creates a certain reproductive and other sexual characteristics, and then muscles and things like that vary. But is there any reality to these terms, Pete? Is this just a way to program and control people, or create content to talk about, or write books about? Is there any reality to masculinity and femininity?
Well, I'm sure there's a reality to it.
Okay.
I was at a bar and I'm having a beer.
Yeah.
And, I was watching, they had two TVs, and on one TV they had a volleyball game by women,
Yeah.
and the other TV they had a basketball game, a WNBA, by women.
Yeah.
So the thought occurred to me that you have this 5-woman basketball team.
Yeah.
But I would argue that a 3-man male basketball team would just cream it. It would just dunk on them. It would just run around in circles,
Sure.
So in other words, there is a difference. Even like with you have the 100-meter dash. You have the males are much faster than the females.
Right.
For some reason.
Right.
So there's a physical barrier built in. So,
but typically, I appreciate that answer, and that's.
But I think your question is about ideology,
personality, Pete, personality. Like, masculinity and femininity are often presented as ingredients for a person's personality, and that's.
I know, but see, the point is that the female kind of knows that if the male, on average, let's say on average,
yeah,
if the male wants to beat her up, he's gonna beat her up.
Sure.
She's not gonna be able to do anything.
Right.
Because the male is stronger. It's a physical fact.
In general,
the females they have to be more deferential.
Yes.
So the male there can be more aggressive.
But people talk about this stuff they go on for hours and hours, and books have been written on the concept, much more than just this concept of physical strength. What I was questioning, what I was wondering is there reality to all of this stuff that's imposed on these terms beyond just the physical? Everyone agrees there's physical differences, and man is stronger, and in certain sports man is better. But these terms and the way they're presented, it's much more about sort of personality traits. And is there truth to that? Meaning, okay, let me give you my answer, my feeling on it. I feel that there's duality in nature. In all shapes and sizes, almost everywhere you look, there's duality. And so a human being should also be balanced between dualities. I think this is the ideal case. So in my view, no man should be fully masculine, and no woman should be fully feminine. And I think the whatever masculinity is thought of typically, and there is a certain pattern to those kind of conceptions, and there's a certain pattern to femininity. I think I think both men and women should have the layers to their personality where they can draw on both. A woman should be confident sometimes. A woman should be aggressive sometimes. A woman should be, display more pride in who she is. And a man should be sometimes more humble, sometimes more deferential, sometimes more self-doubting. All these things are typically more thought of as feminine. And so I think that's my view, and that the idea that a man should just try to maximize the masculinity constantly, that's kind of a tool to program someone into something, and maybe that's not the best way to be. That's kind of my view on it.
Well, I mean, actually, right now we have an example of this with the Harris candidacy.
Okay.
So can a woman break through, and become president? So far, it hasn't happened.
Right.
And so this could be that, and this is, a vote is a vote is a vote. No, nobody knows whether it's a female vote or a male vote. It's just a vote, right?
Yeah.
And so in that sense, there's no advantage of being a male or a female, whether you're voting, if you're voting, you're voting. If you're not voting, you're not voting. It doesn't matter who you are.
Yeah.
And so what these polls show that Trump has maybe a 10 to 12% lead for males.
Yeah.
For males?
Yeah.
Males, so, but then Harris, she has like maybe a 20% lead in females. So and supposedly females, they're more likely to vote,
Oh,
so,
okay.
So overall, Harris, it looks like she should win because unless it's some really weird thing happens at the level of the battleground states,
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens, but this could be an actual test of how this thing plays out. I mean, the reality is the reality. There's nothing you can do about it. But there are actually, they're like what they call the trans. The trans are like it's called a hermaphrodite. They are kind of confused. The biology is not totally black and white. There's like things that happen to a body. They're even like Siamese twins. Like two people, they're born and they're joined at the hip.
Yeah. Yeah.
And without like radical surgery, they're gonna remain like that all their lives. That's
right.
Like, imagine that. So biology is not perfect. Biology is it's not like DNA is perfect. Something.
But let's go through more. I just want to keep pressing you on this because I want to get really your real viewpoint on this. Let's say you were a dad and you had this son and he came back from college and you noticed that for whatever reason you were getting feedback from people that this man, he was like 23, let's say. Let's say you got feedback that he wasn't acting in a very masculine manner. Would this bother you? Like, would you tell the kid to, hey, you need to walk with an erect posture and you need to speak with, more, with a lower tone of voice, and you need to carry yourself in a certain way, and you should dress in a certain way that's more masculine? Would you engage in any of that sort of advice to this person, or would you just say, you know what, this person can live however he wants, and the attempt to try to program him into masculine or feminine is a waste of time?
Well, by the time somebody's 23, I think he's way beyond any kind of, any kind of like a talking to by his parents,
Right.
Like, in other words, the parent maybe has control up to maybe puberty.
Sure.
But even that's problematic, But maybe up to year 10 or something, the child pretty much listens to what the parents say, unless the parents are kind of, unless the parents really don't pay attention to that.
Yeah.
But an engaged parent, they try to they have a boy, he's obviously a boy,
Yeah.
and so they want to make him more masculine than feminine. I mean, that makes sense,
Okay.
They don't give him pink clothes. They give him so, they don't give him dolls. They give him, I don't know, fire engines, so obviously, the parent knows the gender of the child and tries to kind of, because if you become too wishy-washy in society, it's actually kind of counterproductive. You have to stand up for what you are.
Yeah, right.
But I get your point that it can't just be like 100% male. Then you gotta be alone.
Right.
So there has the male has to understand the female, and vice versa. And it's got to be some sort of attraction. If there's no attraction, then it doesn't. So the parent, and when the parent sees the child come and the son come back from college, I think it's like too late. It's
I see.
Why would the parent even interfere at that point? It's like, everybody has their life to live, and they start living it when they're, basically society says when you arrive at the age of majority, which is 18 in this society.
Yeah.
You can sign contracts, you can do what you want.
Yeah.
Nobody can tell you what to do, and so the parents are basically out of the picture at that point, and but some children that stay with their parents for a longer time. They don't know what to do. So that's a different question though.
Yeah.
That could be male or female. It doesn't. But I wouldn't do anything. I would just say, hello, how are you, and what's going on, and it's like economics is there's a huge what they call the LGBTQ community.
Oh yeah,
There's
yeah.
a huge community like that, and they're like normal people. They this like you have Pete Buttigieg. He's got a wife, but his wife is a male.
Yeah.
So and they're doing good. They have adopted kids, and they have house. They just perform like normal people. It's just there's this one aspect of their life which is not a quote unquote normal. So it's not biologically normal. But other than that, they're just normal human citizens.
I tried to get Pete to commit, but you're non-committal on this a little bit. You're a little non-committal. I'm gonna say.
I don't know what you mean by commit. I don't know what you mean by that. What do you mean by that?
What I mean by, I think the question was, do you think these conceptions have any reality to them beyond the physical differences? Beyond the physical. So you started by saying that
you have to drill down to the individual level. To some people they have a reality, and to other people they don't have a reality.
But are they a reality created by ideology, meaning out of nothing? Like some people at some point decided, okay, we're going to create this term masculinity, and we're going to say that the masculine man has these traits, and then we're going to create this other trait, femininity, and we're going to say the feminine woman has these traits, and and then you just repeat it ad nauseum until it gets drilled into people's brains. But
I know, but that sounds like a movie with a script. Then you have some people read the script and they become the role. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's kind of what culture is, right? Culture is a script. Culture is education and peer pressure and people, and then now you've got social media. And there's Pete, you would go into YouTube and type how to become more masculine. You will get thousands of results, and they have a lot of views. So a lot of men are very interested in this topic, and a lot of women are very interested in this topic of how to become more feminine. And I'm just saying the entire conceptions may be frauds. Like the ideas are frauds. They could be. And by that, I don't mean that there aren't good things in both. But my point is just that you've got a virtue. You have a virtue of being assertive. Like that is, if you have your rights are violated, you should be assertive. It doesn't matter if you have a vagina or a penis. You should be assertive. That's not a matter of you being masculine. That's not a matter of you being feminine. It's a matter of you doing the right thing for the moment. And all the other traits. So I think they're frauds in that this conception that because a man has a penis, he has to act and he has to have a certain personality, and a woman similarly has a. I think they're frauds. I think there are virtues and there are vices, and people should have as many of the virtues as appropriate for their lives, and avoid the vices. And it has nothing to do with these ideas of masculinity. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm not saying that if I watch some of these masculinity videos, I might not agree and say, you know, that's a good way to act. That's a good way to behave. But I'm not agreeing to it because I think, you know, the person should try to be more masculine. I'm just thinking that that way of behaving is the right way to behave. So that's why I'm going to commit and say I think these notions are frauds.
Well, okay, so I have to admit I never watched these videos, so I don't know anything about them. But anyway, if you want me to make you a direct answer, this is the best I can do, okay?
Okay, direct.
My direct answer is that, yes, men and women, you know, let's just set aside the so-called kind of the gray area, the LGBTQ people,
Sure.
Set them aside.
Sure.
You know? And they're only like maybe 5% of I don't know what percentage of the population they are anyway.
Yeah.
You know. So the vast majority of, you know, committed males and committed females, right? And they want to have you know, so to me, my direct answer is that's just the bare meaning of a female is kind of a random event, you know? It's just, you know, it's not like, unless, you know, you go to one of these dating sites and you start doing it scientifically somehow, you're trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
But even then, you only got to get other people who are going to the dating site.
Sure. Sure.
You know, so in nature, like 500 years ago, you know, you had a village and you had this, basically all the females in the village, you met them all at the, you know, and then you chose one of them, or they chose each other, you know. So, but in this society right now, it's like, it's not that easy to meet to me, my direct answer is this, that to have a soul mate, both the female and the male want to have a soul mate. But to meet your soul mate, that's super difficult. It's like almost impossible. You know? And so that's why they have all these talkers, all these people telling you how to become feminine or masculine.
Yeah.
Because, you know, but then you become more of a homogenized version of what you should be or what you are.
Right.
That's the best way I can say is that
Right.
I've always tried to avoid that. I try to avoid that.
Yes.
I try to, like, you know, that's why I kind of go to bars, because in bars I can usually meet somebody new. Like, you know, it's not, unless you go to the same bar over and over.
Sure.
But I try to, like, and I used to go to bars more often than I do now, but, you know, that was my kind of way of de-randomizing, and then making it also kind of more personal in the sense that, here's the person right here, and then you can, you know, start talking or whatever.
Yeah, I think Pete gave a great answer. It's actually very much kind of where I was trending with different answers, but yeah, I think we're in agreement on that, Pete. I think the danger is to homogenize.
But yes, my purpose is always to try to find a soulmate. That's my purpose. Right. That's what I always try to do, and you know.
It's very hard. You're right.
If it didn't work out, then it didn't work out.
It didn't work out.
To me, I'm not like, you know, I just don't. I always hope that something will happen, but it doesn't have to happen.
Yeah, it doesn't have to. There's no guarantees. Yeah, that's right. There's no guarantees.
Right. That's why the open system for me is working. Is to, you know, I don't get mad or something. I just start, you know. Yeah. You know, I don't start getting all upset about it. You know,
it's a very healthy.
I'm just a one of a kind.
It's a very healthy attitude. It's a very healthy attitude. Yeah. And I would agree. And I think that the takeaway I had from this is really confirmed from that point.